Hello everyone and welcome to the weird, scary and horrible parts of humanity. So if you've seen Kento Bento's amazing video on the insane hijacking of Japan Airlines Flight 351, you're probably thinking, what the fuck happened to everyone when they flew into Seoul Gimpo International Airport on the Boeing 727, which landed on the 31st of March 1970? Well, sadly, sans the animation and sans any affiliation to Kento Bento, I am going to attempt to dissect and analyse what happened after the plane arrived in Seoul, South Korea. So the hijackers pretty quickly realised that they had been duped as soon as they heard American music and refused to release the passengers from the aircraft. South Korea promised that if the hostages were released, then they could fly to North Korea, but the hijackers knew that without any hostages they would have no bargaining power. However, Japan's Vice Minister for Transport, Shinjiro Yamamura, agreed to take the possession of the remaining 122 passengers, which was agreed with the hijackers, and the flight was flown to Pyongyang's Mirim Airport in exchange for the passengers. In the interim, the aircraft remained on the tarmac. As a result, the passengers were taken off the Boeing 727 and sent back to Tokyo. The aircraft took off again on the 3rd of April and arrived in Pyongyang at 7:21 p.m. with the crew having no maps and in essence flying blind, as communication with Pyongyang did not work. Yamamura surrendered immediately, and he and the remaining crew returned to Tokyo on the morning of the 5th of April 1970, arriving back into Haneda Airport at 9:39 a.m. to thunderous applause and thousands of onlookers, with Japan captivated by this bizarre and unusual hijacking attempt. Yamamura went on to become a member of the House of Representatives Budget Committee, before being stabbed to death by his daughter on the 11th of April 1992. Ironically, NK News noted that just days later he was due to fly to Pyongyang for negotiations. Takaya Shiomi was to participate in the attack but was arrested just days before the hijacking. His trial took 10 years to complete and he was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with the previous time in prison counting towards his sentence. He served his sentence at Fuchu Prison to the west of the centre of Tokyo. However, he would spend a combined 19 years and 9 months in prison, factoring in the pre-trial detention, and wasn't released until December 1989. After this, he worked a low-paying job as an attendant at a multi-level parking facility in Kitose, Japan, where he worked until 2008. He commonly protested against right-wing ideologies and against anti-Americanism during meetings held by right-wing groups, including the Isokai, formed in 1972 as part of the new right-wing movement in Japan. He also joined an anti-air base movement in Okinawa, which protested an American air base in Okinawa, as well as an anti-nuclear campaign, and wrote several books related to the Red Army faction. In 2015, he ran for the city council in Kitose City in the Tokyo prefecture, running for one of 20 seats. His slogan was "Overthrow the Abe administration, which robs young people of hope, and fight against the Kitose municipal government, which bullies the elderly." But he was unsuccessful and came 22nd out of 23 candidates. He died of heart failure 2 years later on the 14th of November 2017 in Tokyo. But what happened to the rest of the hijackers? Well, they were kept in North Korea and granted political asylum, and what happened to them is speculative at best. Indeed, Xiaomi created controversy in Japan by equating the plight of the Flight 351 hijackers with 17 Japanese citizens who had been kidnapped by the North Korean government from 1977 to 1983 and kept in North Korea against their will. Once in Pyongyang, the hijackers were taken to the Pyongyang Hotel on the Taedong River for interrogation and then taken to one of the residences for visiting foreign officials. They probably still wanted to go to Cuba, but North Korea had no intention of letting them go nor return to Japan. Indeed, according to NK News, Supreme Leader Kim Il-sung, who led North Korea at the time, wanted to ensure that the hijackers were treated well. They would be educated on the concept of juche, self-reliance, and underwent political training. However, problems began from 1985 when Takaro's girlfriend arrived and would marry him. Realizing that something had to be done, Kim Il-sung kidnapped women from Japan to become the remaining hijackers' wives, with the marriages taking place in early May 1977, and Kim Il-sung rocking up on the 14th of May 1977 to congratulate the newlyweds. However, some of the wives of the hijackers had voluntarily gone from Japan to North Korea due to their political beliefs. Within a year, all of the hijackers would become fathers. By the 1980s, they were even allowed to interact under carefully guarded meetings with Japanese tourists who were visiting North Korea. Kentaro Yoshida is believed to have died sometime before 1985, but it is speculated by NK News that Yoshida died a lot earlier, potentially through arguing with his ideological instructors. Takamaro Tamaya died in late 1995, although the cause of his death remains unknown. Tamaya's nephew was sentenced to a suspended 1-year sentence in 2002 for shoplifting in Naga City, Japan, in south-central Honshu. Moraki Wakabayashi is still alive but remains in North Korea. There he married political exile Sakiko Wakabayashi, who arrived in North Korea in 1984, and they have 2 children. Yasushiro Shibata returned to Japan in 1988 to raise money for the group. Well, allegedly, arriving in Tokyo Narita Airport, and he was arrested on the 6th of May 1988 using a false passport. It was speculated that he may have intended to travel to Seoul, South Korea, to sabotage in an unknown way the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. However, North Korea noted that it allowed Shibata to leave North Korea voluntarily. Put on trial for the hijacking of Japan Airlines Flight 351, his trial began in 1989. He was sentenced to 4 years in jail, which he served in Niigata prison in Niigata, Japan, and he was released on the 21st of July 1994. Takeshi Okamoto and his wife, Kimiko Fukudome, are believed to have been killed trying to escape North Korea. However, it is also speculated that they could have died in a landslide in 1988 or been in a prison camp in North Korea, according to the Japan Times. Indeed, being in a prison camp would be a punishment of trying to escape North Korea and being caught. However, the exact date of their deaths is unknown. Yoshimi Tanaka was arrested in Cambodia with a large amount of counterfeit money in 1996. The fake money equated to more than $120,000 US in fake $100 US bills, and he was attempting to flee from Cambodia to Vietnam in a North Korean embassy car accompanied by North Korean diplomats. To this day, North Korea has an embassy in Phnom Penh, Cambodia's capital. He was on a fake North Korean diplomatic passport. However, it was Thai police who had orchestrated his arrest due to the large number of fake $100 bills in casinos on the border between Thailand and Cambodia, and he was handed over to the Thai police and, as a result, sent to Thailand. It was impossible to prove a connection to the counterfeit money. However, in June 2000, he was extradited from Bangkok to his native Japan, arriving at Tokyo Narita Airport. Put on trial for the hijacking of Japan Airlines Flight 351, he would plead guilty to the crimes and apologise to the passengers of Japan Airlines Flight 351. In February 2002, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He would die while incarcerated in 2007. Between 2002 and 2004, a number of the hijackers' wives returned to Japan. Korea Jungang Daily reported that Takako Konishi, the wife of Takahiro Konishi, who voluntarily defected to North Korea, was jailed in January 2003 for 1 year and 6 months in prison for violating the Passport Act and given a 4-year suspended sentence. The Guardian reported that by 2002 the remaining hijackers were pleading to come home to Japan and had long outstayed their welcome, and according to CNN, all had put in application forms requesting Japanese travel documents. This was despite Chief Cabinet Secretary Yasuo Fukuda telling CNN that the 4 committed the serious crime of hijacking. If they come back, they will be punished according to Japanese laws. It was widely believed that the regime of Kim Jong-il would let them leave to improve diplomatic relations in an attempt to show that he, and in turn North Korea, did not support terrorists. Indeed, Professor of Asian Studies at Tokyo International University, Hajime Izumi, would state, "For North Korea, the best thing would be to have the hijackers go home. They don't work and they aren't much use anymore, not to mention they're a huge financial burden." Indeed, then Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi was calling on North Korea to extradite them, and it was widely believed that expelling the Red Army hijackers combined with a public denunciation of terrorism by Kim Jong-il would see North Korea removed from the US's list of countries sponsoring terrorism, and thereby the US would remove her crippling sanctions. However, this did not come to pass. In a 2004 interview by Tokyo-based Kyodo News with the remaining hijackers, it was confirmed that Takiro Konishi, Shiro Akagi, Kimiuro Uomoyo, and Moyaki Wakabayashi were still alive in North Korea. In the interview, all 4 hijackers expressed their dissatisfaction with living in North Korea, noting that they would be willing to return home to their native Japan even if it meant being punished for the hijacking. In 2004, an arrest warrant was obtained for Sakiko Wakabayashi, who had gone to North Korea in 1984 without government approval. In a March 2010 interview with Kyodo News, Moyaki Wakabayashi expressed regret for the hijacking, stating that it was a selfish act and a conceited act, and that he was willing to face arrest and trial for his role in the hijacking. Tamiya's wife, Megumi Yayo, would state that the hijackers and their wives lived in lavish apartments with central heating, air conditioning and TVs, and they had cooks and servants and drivers to chauffeur them in Mercedes-Benz, and indeed by 2000 they were able to drive themselves. In 2014, the Japan Times released a photo of an apartment building in a village 40 minutes outside of Pyongyang in Woodland, where it is believed that the hijackers were living. Further pictures were later released of the complex and the so-called purpose-built Japanese village 40 minutes from Pyongyang, where at one time as many as 36 people lived: the hijackers, their wives and their children. In essence, they were under house arrest with guards controlling the gated community. However, they had privileges rare to North Koreans, including international telephone lines and email. However, they had no internet. The hijackers would go on to have 20 children, all of whom were granted Japanese citizenship. All had returned to Japan by 2004, returning in stages between 2001 and 2004. Many expressed different emotions in returning to Japan, with Risuko Konishi telling the BBC, "I am hoping to find my own happiness and purpose in life there in Japan." However, Aki Shibata was nervous and would state, "I'm glad to be going to Japan, but I think the hardships are about to begin." All would move in and live with relatives in Tokyo. One of the hijackers' wives and one of the widows of the hijackers remained in North Korea as of 2014, as do 4 of the hijackers. It is believed that those still living in North Korea as of 2014 are Shiro Akagi, Moyaki Wakabayashi, Kimihiro Uomoto, Sakiko Wakabayashi, Kuroda Takahiro Konishi, and Yoriko Mori. According to NK News, as of 2020, the same 6 people remain living in the Japan village in North Korea. This is the last update that we have from the Hermit Kingdom. And what about the aircraft? Well, she would continue flying for Japan Airlines as JA8315 until the 1st of April 1972, when she was handed over to TDA, Taiyo Domestic Airlines, which resulted from the merger of Taiyo Airways and Japan Domestic Airlines on the 15th of May 1971. It adopted the name Japan Air System on the 1st of April 1988. Then on the 18th of March 1976, it adopted the registration number DAHLS and would fly for Hapag-Lloyd and then Sat Fluggesellschaft Germania and Hapag-Lloyd, and then Asi Air Service International, a non-profit humanitarian organisation. It then flew with various operators, including MVP Air Tours, Viscount Air Service, Sun Pacific International, Ryan International Airlines, Laker Airways, Star Air Tours, D8 Air Inc., AMC Interflight, Global Airways, and Transtel Airlines in Togo, before being stored in 2014. And thank you for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this video, even though there wasn't a huge amount of information, much like with everything from the Hermit Kingdom, and at least that you found it interesting and it brought you some closure if you're a fan of Kento Bento's video on Japan Airlines Flight 351. Please do yourself a favour and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be informed of when new videos come out. Also, why not hit that like button and leave a nice comment? It helps more than you know and your support is truly appreciated. Until next time, stay awesome, stay classy, be kind to everyone you meet, have an amazing day, and remember that truth is always more interesting than fiction.